Well, joining us now here on Agriculture of America, we want to talk about crop insurance decisions and much more as we think about the 2024 season. Joining us now, Rich Morrison, VP of Farm Services for NAU Country Insurance, is with us. And Rich, great to have you join us on the program today. Thanks so much. Hope you're doing well.
Good to be with you. Thank you.
Well, let's just start. Give us a little bit of background on your background, and also tell us a little bit about NAU Country Insurance and some of the things that you guys do. Let's just start there, Rich.
Well, I guess I took a little bit of a different path to get into the crop insurance business. I started in the grain business. It's been, 36 years ago, I guess, and worked in the grain business as a trader, a manager of some facilities for a number of years. The company that I worked with at the time, we decided that we needed to reach out and change some of our risk management offerings. In addition to helping producers market grain, we started a subsidiary branch to sell crop insurance as well. And that's kind of snowballed into working with producers around the country and offering marketing services. With NAU Country now, I do an opening bell phone call every morning. I put an email letter out every night. We do meetings throughout the winter with agents and producers around the country. I do Zoom meetings, et cetera. So just a lot of different ways that we try to get information out. Even though we're a crop insurance company, we still try to get market information out to the producers we're working with and help them use their insurance policy and the guarantee from the policy to hopefully do a better job on the marketing side as well, and ultimately to try to lock in revenue.
Well, that's what it's all about, is getting that revenue locked in and finding ways to maximize your profits as you grow a crop, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I'm sure a lot of great conversations you get to have each and every day, and probably a lot of information you're hearing from folks. What's the mood of producers out there? We've seen this setback in commodity prices. We're getting ready for planting season. I mean, Rich, what are you hearing from producers across the country right now?
Well, I would say overall, there's a little bit of a tentative mood coming into the year with commodity prices dropping. But, even that said, it varies. I've talked to many producers that are still optimistic. I think that a lot of guys feel that, that the markets tend to go in cycles, that ag tends to work in cycles. And so we have to take the down with the up. And I think everybody knows we've had 2 or 3 really good years, generally speaking, with high commodity prices and generally some pretty good yields and good demand. And maybe that's going to disappear for a year or two. But then I'm also talking to a lot of younger producers that are looking at the opportunities maybe that lower prices give, and some producers hoping to maybe expand their operations and such. So I'd say it's all over the board this winter. Generally there's some concern though because of the lower commodity prices.
Well, I know acreage decisions are being made right now. We're doing some surveys. We got a big report at the end of the month from USDA on prospective plantings, et cetera. What are you hearing? Any changes that you see in the crop mix for 2024 potentially, Rich?
Well, I guess I might buck the trend a little bit from USDA. I do think corn acres will be down, and I do think soybean acres will be up, but I'm not in the camp of thinking it's going to be as big a change as what some are thinking. I do think in some areas around the fringes of the Corn Belt, for instance, North Dakota, I've talked to several folks up there where we've got 2 brand new crushing facilities coming online. I do think in those states where that's happening, we're going to see more soybean acres naturally. But I do think through the heart of the Corn Belt, it seems like that a lot of guys still like planting corn. I think a lot of work was done last fall to prep for corn planting. A lot of anhydrous is going on this spring in some areas. So I still look for the meat of the Corn Belt to still be, keeping its corn mix where it's been. But I do think around that perimeter is where you're probably going to see maybe some changes to soybeans. The other thing here late will be the cotton price. Down in the Delta and in Texas, will that add some cotton acres? I think it will a little bit. I'm hearing like in Louisiana, guys maybe planting a few more rice acres. So maybe you give up some corn and or soybean acres in the Delta, and maybe you plant a few more acres of cotton and rice. So it'll be interesting to see those numbers, certainly from USDA here at the end of the month.
Well, what are some reminders for producers to consider as they're making crop insurance decisions here for their operations? Let's talk about that a little bit. Keeping, the crop mix and commodity prices and more in mind. But I know we got a lot of decisions to make here with crop insurance. So, what are some reminders that producers need to think about right now?
Well, I certainly think that knowing cost of production is important again. The last couple of years, maybe we've gotten away from that or been able to get away from it a little bit. And, we've been looking at buying crop insurance mainly to lock in profitability. And we've been able to do that at some of the higher levels of coverages. But this year, I think it's, we kind of go back to where we were 4 or 5 years ago, to where it's important to know your cost of production. How many dollars per acre do you have in the crop? What can you buy coverage wise to cover that? And so we're back in that mode once again. Then do you forward sell to cover that, to lock that in? And so we do have some things that we're looking at this year. Enhanced coverage option was a new product about 4 years ago. It's a county-based insurance product. It starts at 95%, and it's subsidized by the government. And that allows farmers to really get a high trigger. And I think a lot of guys are looking at that ECO, it's called, this year as a way to try to get enough coverage to lock in cover their cost of production, which, like I said, we haven't maybe been as worried about the last couple of years, but this year, that seems to be more in what people are looking at.
Well, thinking about some of those reminders, what changes, if any, should farmers consider for crop insurance this year, Rich?
I don't think that we've got a whole lot changing per se. I think that, again, it focuses on cost of production, and how you look at your buying of crop insurance this year. I think, like I said, in the past, we've been looking at profitability. A lot of guys have been able to buy 80, 85% coverage and lock in a profit, and that may not be the case this year. So I think that's where we're really shifting our focus this winter, to knowing cost of production, and then also utilizing crop insurance, I think, is a bit of a marketing tool, because if you think prices can go down in the next, 6, 8 months, then some of these higher level coverages really provide almost like put option protection to the downside. And that's been my focus this winter, is how do you utilize some of these products as kind of like a marketing put. And if guys aren't forward selling right now, which most aren't, then some of these coverages really provide that protection for you.
Well, I'm thinking about this too. We're seeing more drought, more severe weather across parts of the country. How are some of these changes and weather related losses causing farmers and crop insurers to adapt, Rich?
Well, it's caused a little bit of a shakeup, certainly around the industry. Where we've seen several years of losses in some areas, certainly some nervousness. I certainly think it's caused a lot more angst amongst some producers in those areas, and crop insurance is getting a lot more attention. That's for sure. I do think that we're seeing, as an industry, a lot more interest in hail and wind coverage as well. Because we've seen some areas across the Midwest and others that have had more damage from hail and wind over the last couple of years, and so that, I think, is a bigger focus now than maybe it was just 2, 3, 4 years ago. So maybe it started in Iowa a few years ago with the derecho storm, but we're seeing some more of that around the country, and so that I think is a bigger change than what we'd had in the past.
Well, good thoughts, Rich. Anything final you would want to add for folks as they're looking at crop insurance and thinking about their operation and knowing their cost of production, things like that here in 2024? Is there anything else final you'd want to add or reiterate to folks that they need to make sure they keep in mind here this year?
Well, I think one of the things we focused on at NAU Country, and maybe that's just my focus because it's a little different than most of the other insurance companies, but it is not only on the marketing side, but we've put some tools together, some matrix type tools to be able to show producers, how adding, say, SCO and ECO coverage, even after the cost of production, can help them more than cover some of their expenses or all of their expenses for the year. So I would invite them to, check with your NAU Country agent. They can pull those tools up for you and be able to run your numbers and look at your particular operation. And I think, again, this year, that's a very important thing.
Very, very true. And I'm sure if they want to find more information online as well, Rich, naucountry.com is a great way to start, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Well, we appreciate the time. VP of Farm Services for NAU Country, Rich Morrison. Rich, thanks for joining us here at Agriculture of America. We'll look forward to having a conversation with you again in the future. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Jesse.